So it's time for us to go and take a look at the Nintendo 2DS XL and see how this specific console has held up and is going to hold up for the next several years and see how it holds up in 2023 for the most part. Now, funny enough, I've probably been playing the most amount of 3DS and I guess 2DS games this past year. I would say from basically like March of last year up until now, I have played the most amount of games I've probably ever played in one single year, and most of those were 3DS games. And when we look back at essentially the 3DS lifespan, it's funny because the 3DS kind of got sunsetted and then the 2DS took its place. And the reason the 2DS XL I think was so important for the most part was because, for one, it was a cheaper console to make overall, it was a cheaper console to buy, and because it was so cheap, Nintendo could sell this thing alongside something like the Nintendo Switch, and it wouldn't really cannibalize the sales of something like a Nintendo Switch or the 2DS XL because they were separate consoles. When Nintendo was making the Nintendo Switch, which initially released in 2017, Nintendo was making sure and kind of reassuring people that the Nintendo Switch was not a 3DS replacement. It was just its own console and its own lineup. But little did we know, it was pretty much its own, it was pretty much almost like a successor. Although we didn't have any ported games over, I think that would have been really awesome. We pretty much were stuck in this situation where we knew Nintendo wasn't going to be making another portable, dedicated portable console. It's pretty much always going to be this Switch hybrid type of console, which I'm totally fair with. I think that's totally fine. So with something like the Nintendo 2DS XL, this console, what's beautiful about it is that the history is done with this console. There's no new development for the most part. The eShop just shut down for this console pretty much in all areas. So some people might be wondering, this console may not be worth buying anymore because everything is basically shut down. You can't really do too much with it. But there is still so much capability and so much power behind one of these consoles that it doesn't even make any sense to not buy this console. If you're somebody who already is an avid Nintendo fan, and let's say you already have maybe like a Nintendo DS Lite, and maybe you have a Nintendo DSi, maybe you even have a Nintendo Switch, and you're probably like, should I buy a 2DS or a 3DS or whatever? I think the 2DS XL is an amazing way of kind of, getting into the 3DS and 2DS lineup and getting it at a cheap price while you're still able to play a bunch of games. Now, on the outside of the 2DS XL, this was, again, kind of the direct successor to the 2DS, which I think was an interesting approach from Nintendo. Probably wasn't the smartest design choice, but they did end up fixing it pretty much with the 2DS XL. So with this console, it was supposed to be a cheaper edition of the 3DS XL. So if you didn't want to buy the 3DS XL, or if you didn't want to have that 3D toggle looming around, well, you can always go for the 2DS XL. You would lose that 3D toggle, but you would basically get the same exact type of experience for the most part. And I think that was kind of the best thing about it. I didn't really care too much about that, 3D toggle. And even though this thing may not have been as powerful as the 3DS XL, or at least that new one for the most part, this thing was still good in my opinion for sure. Now flipping this thing open, this is where this console really screams to me of just how beautiful this console was. You had that big display at the bottom, you had a little bit of a smaller display, so the top display was 4.88 inches, it was an LCD panel. The bottom one was a 4.18 inch resistive LCD panel. So the thing I loved about this 2DS XL was that, for one, again, it looked really good. It didn't have that interesting design the 3DS XL had. It looked like its own console, and I really liked that. And I liked the most how that top display kind of spread a little bit more. I feel like there was less bezel on that top display for me, and I just liked the design of the 2DS XL a little tiny bit more than the 3DS XL. Although the 3DS XL I think felt better in the hand, the 2DS XL still felt very, very good, which was really cool. Now another thing is, you still had that joystick, you still had that little pointing stick at the top, which was kind of interesting. You had the same button layout for the most part. You had the charging port on this thing, you had an SD card slot, you had a game card slot as well. So you were getting, I would say, about 90% of the same experience as you were getting as a 3DS XL on this thing, but you were getting it at a cheaper price tag, which again was pretty cool. Now flipping this thing open and turning it on, you were getting that exact same software that you would initially get on a 3DS. So whenever there would be updates, whenever there would be any changes, for the most part, the 2DS XL would also experience those types of changes too, which I think is honestly pretty cool in and of itself. But that is not even touching the amount of software that was available for this thing, for the amount of games that were available for this console as well, and the backwards compatibility. There were years and years of games that were available for this console during its launch. it ended, it got officially discontinued in 2020. It doesn't even feel like it's been that long, but it's been almost 3 years since this console has been discontinued. And when you think back to it, you probably wouldn't even think like, man, this console is still getting, it's still being sold. It's still around. And even though there probably weren't too many games being made in 2020, the fact that there was almost over a decade of games you can play on this one console is pretty insane. You have to keep in mind, the Nintendo DS came out many, many years ago before this console even was probably thought of. So because of that, you were getting all those DS games, you were getting all those DSi games, you were getting all those 3DS games, and if there were any more 3DS games made after this console, well, you were pretty much getting to play those too. But to give you a little bit more perspective, I was able to play several different games on this console this last year, and it has been a blast, and I had such an amazing time playing them. So for example, I played Mario Kart 7 locally, so I didn't have the online player mode, but I was playing it locally. That was very fun. I played New Super Mario Bros. 2 again, because I didn't really remember what the first one was, because I kind of forgot that I played it the first time. I played Animal Crossing New Leaf. I haven't finished it. Obviously, there's not really a finish point, but I'm still going on through it. Super Mario 3D Land, I beat that. I played Super Smash Bros. For the 3DS. I'm playing The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D. I finished The Legend of Zelda Link Between Worlds, and there are so many more games. You had The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask 3D Remake. You had Super Mario Maker for the 3DS. You had a Mario Party that came out for this game. You had tons of games that came out for this console. And I think for the most part, Nintendo, because they were taking such a loss on the Nintendo Wii U and the Switch was kind of a gamble, they just wanted to make sure that at least they had a portable console on the side that just in case something goes wrong or whatever the case is, they still are making money from another console. They did not want to be in a situation where both of their consoles were going down, because if that were to happen, well then pretty much their company would go out, and I don't think people would be super happy about that. So in this situation, they were very happy they were able to have another portable console making up the sales, and from that point, they were able to go ahead and take a little bit more of a gamble with the Switch, and I think it kind of paid off. They're making tons of money with the Switch still, and although the next Switch is going to be coming out, I think it probably will end up being more like a Switch 2 or like a Wii U kind of thing, not in terms of sales, but in terms of kind of what Nintendo's thinking about, rather than the next main dedicated console. And I look back at something like the Nintendo 2DS XL, and it kind of is interesting because I don't know if we'll ever get another console like this in theory. I think the Switch Lite was more of a Nintendo 2DS rather than a Nintendo 2DS XL, but I do wonder if Nintendo is ever going to make a cheaper, bigger version of that next generation of console. The Nintendo Switch OLED was not cheaper, it was more expensive, so that doesn't really take the cake here too. But with the 2DS XL, I still think this console has so much power within it, and I think it still has a pretty long lifespan. It might not be the first console I'd recommend people to buy. If you can, I would swing for a Nintendo Switch, even a Switch Lite if you want to, but I would probably just recommend buying the original Nintendo Switch, or the Switch OLED for the matter. But I still look at something like the Nintendo 2DS XL, and I think this is still a very capable console with a lot of power inside of it. Again, if you can swing for the more expensive console, I'd go for it. But there's still lots of games available for the Nintendo 2DS XL, and I'm extremely happy by, basically the future of this specific console and the past as well. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.